Exclusive contract novel of Feilu Fiction Network. Genshin Impact. Exposure of chat group, and death of all members. Tivat suddenly appeared in the exposed chat group. Qian Lingfeng said, "Good guy, I'm almost becoming Tivat's richest man. You're only here at this time in the system. Roast belongs to roast, but who cannot love the golden fingers that appear in plain sight? Unfortunately, this golden finger doesn't seem exclusive to him. At first, people thought it was just something for chatting. However, when the activity level was met, the points mall and exposure of famous venues were opened. Everyone in Tivat began to wear pain masks. The great sage. Why did I receive an insulting title without being exposed? Funina. I was just pretending to be forced. I didn't want to judge the gods. Can Villette help me? Neville right. Qian Lingfeng said, hey. How could there be my second creation? And what kind of ghost is the torture? Difficulty question and answer. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Master Keqing is not doing well. Your husband wants. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Tivat continent within the side hall of the Jade Pavilion in the port of Liyue. At this moment, one of the 7 stars of the Liyue, Yuhangsing Keqing, is holding the plan book in her hand and editing it. Ningguang, that troublesome woman. What's wrong with criticizing my proposal while that person's not around? At the same time of making modifications, Keqing muttered softly about something. If anyone could see the documents in her hand at this moment, you can find words like Qianlingfeng Regional Reform and Development written on it. In this way, it is not difficult to explain why her plan repeatedly blocked. I will definitely come up with a perfect plan this time. I see what other reasons he and Ningguang can use to excuse themselves. Keqing was making modifications while clenching her small fist to cheer herself on. Now throughout the territory of Liyue, due to the appearance of that man 10 years ago, except for Qianlingfeng and Leiyan Giant Abyss, all other areas that could be developed during this period have already been developed. Because even Guyungu now has vacation camps built by Liu. The layered rock abyss is indeed not suitable for long-term human habitation due to geographical reasons. In this way, her gaze naturally became fully focused on the lonely cloud pavilion. It was precisely because of multiple setbacks that everything over there had become her heart disease. Pada. At this moment, a rapid sound of footsteps came from outside the door. Master Keqing, big things are not going well. Your husband is going to heaven. One of the 3 secretaries of Ningguang, Baiwen, ran in with a look of something big happening. Oh, it's 100 rumors, what happened? Keqing heard the sound and knew people, and without even lifting her head, she casually asked. She is now completely focused on the plan in her hand and resents it. Lord Lingfeng brought back a yellow-haired ocean horse with big waves from Fengdan this time. Baiwen's 3 steps turned into 2, and he quickly stepped forward as if trying to attract Keqing's attention. Oh, got it, has Lingfeng returned? I'm not available at the moment, please let him go find the big house first. Keqing still didn't react much. She reached out and gently waved her hand, but her gaze still didn't shift at all. Ah. This. I know now. Baiwen was stunned for a moment, but ultimately turned into a helpless sigh. Just kidding, she has already been to Ningguang's place, okay? You should know that she is a close secretary under Ningguang's command, so if you have any news, please inform Ningguang immediately. It was obvious that the condensation at that time was just a nod with a smile on his face. A soft "oh" means she already knows. That's why she remembered Keqing in the side hall. She didn't want to take the opportunity to sow discord and apply eye drops to anyone. I simply believe that man already has adults. Ningguang and Keqing, you should just relax outside. I just didn't expect that the 2 parties didn't take it to heart at all. It's true that the emperor is not in a hurry, she's so anxious she's not really what she is. With a helpless expression, he turned around and walked towards the outside. Sigh. Wait, Baiwen, you said Lingfeng has returned. Just as she walked to the door, Keqing in the room seemed to have come to her senses. Thinking of the person who came with her, thinking of the little things they did together to build the land of Liyue. At this moment, her face also unconsciously showed a joyful expression. Yes, Lord Keqing. Although Baiwen was somewhat speechless, he still respectfully turned around and answered to Keqing. Okay, I got it. You go down first. Keqing nodded and then waved at the other person with a smile. Since the other party's trip to Fengdan has ended, she is not in a hurry to meet them immediately. Before that, she was even more thinking about how to persuade the other party this time. Sure enough, the primary goal is to improve this plan first. Keqing nodded seriously and quickly shifted her gaze back to the plan in her hand. But she didn't know that no matter how much she tried to perfect it, in the end, neither Qian Lingfeng nor Desire nor Ningguang would nod in agreement. At this moment, at the south gate of Liyue Port, there is a handsome and elegant-looking man carrying a young lady who looked noble and elegant but had some negative emotions. I saw her with a head of golden wavy hair and a pair of blue eyes that indicated her current state of mind. He still wears a big black top hat on his head. It is adorned with yellow and white roses as embellishments. He also had an umbrella resembling a weapon in his hand, as well as a suitcase half a person high. Alright, we have already stepped into Liyue Port at this moment. I think Brother Cares is a spirit in heaven, and I don't want to see your great niece, Navia, so depressed. Qian Lingfeng smiled slightly and gently patted the other person's fragrant shoulder. Then he reached out and found the luggage in the other person's hand, saying. After he finished speaking, he waved his hand towards the nearby area. Quickly, a butler-like person walked over. Master Lingfeng, you have returned. After the other party approached, they respectfully bowed to Qian Lingfeng. How many times have I said it, I'm still young. Chen, you are much older than me. You're calling me master to end my life, right? Qian Lingfeng smiled and shook his head. While speaking to him, he also handed the salute in his hand to the other person. Alright, you can take the things back first. There's no need to wait here. When Qian Lingfeng saw that the other party was still planning to say something, he waved his hand to ask them to step back first. Quickly, with the luggage in hand, he bowed to Qian Lingfeng and withdrew. Qian Lingfeng slowly walked into Liyue Port with Navia, introducing her to what she had heard and seen along the way. Most of the residents of Liyue whom I met along the way warmly greeted them. Of course, there is also a small group of people walking around him. Looking at him, there was a mixture of 3 parts anger and 7 parts fear. Is this Liyue Port now? It seems that you are not just a businessman. With a complicated look on her face, she looked at the called little uncle beside her and roast. Chapter 2. Chamber of Commerce across 5 countries. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In fact, Navia herself and Qian Lingfeng are both very similar in age. But who made the other party and their own father become called friends who forget their years? Since their first meeting, each other has relied on this level of identity to take advantage of themselves. Therefore, she naturally did not even call the other person uncle. Hee, don't you know? Overall, I can also be considered as the diplomatic ambassador of Liyue. The positions are equivalent to 7 stars, but I am only responsible for diplomacy. Qian Lingfeng smiled slightly and nodded at the other person. He didn't hide anything from the other party and directly told them his official identity. Is that so? So your purpose in coming to Fengdan is not simply to create the Hengbai Chamber of Commerce. But I haven't seen you connect with the official forces of Fengdan, have you? Navia was still very surprised by the official status of the other party, who was equivalent to 7 stars. But soon something was wrong again, as it seemed that the other party had not yet handed over to the official forces when they went to Fengdan. You're mistaken about this. My purpose of going to Fengdan this time is indeed to open the Hengbai Chamber of Commerce. It is precisely because of this that I established a trading relationship with your father's Thorny Rose Society. After having a pleasant conversation with each other, we finally became friends who forget the years. After Qian Lingfeng finished speaking, he looked at the other person with a teasing look. It seems like you're asking if you should call me uncle now. However, he didn't lie about this. Fengdan is already the 4th country he went out to. And in the front, whether it was Mond or Inami, Desire, or in other words, Sumi. Although he entered with the official identity of Liu, he did not come into contact with any deities from any country. His actions are just building the Hengbai Chamber of Commerce in various countries. As for the official political aspect, he does not believe that he currently has the ability or strength to negotiate with the other deities. After all, even the little grass god who was imprisoned by Sumi, in his view, was a legitimate existence. He has been in this world for 10 years, and he wouldn't look at those gods with the same eyes as in his past life. Even the youngest deity has reigned for hundreds of years. He doesn't think he can play with the gods just by relying on some of the plot he knows from his past life. So, besides leaving Fengdan, he used some means to give a song and a novel to Funaina. He never had any contact with the gods of any country from beginning to end. Of course, the most important thing is that so far he has not awakened the so-called Golden Finger. It was entirely thanks to an old man who was determined to retire that his strength was pulled to the top level of humanity. Based on his estimation of his own strength, he is now estimated to be similar to the Dada duck of the Divine Eye. Don't think it's bad either, even though the evaluation of that duck is mixed. But ultimately, the other party is constantly pushing their limits and constantly making themselves stronger. Even he felt that if it wasn't for the old man's pen and without his own golden fingers, he may not be able to reach this level in his lifetime. After all, he is wearing clothes rather than soul clothes, and he is very clear about his physical constitution. I can go with you, your relationship with my father is between you. Do you really need to mark a question mark on whether you look older than me at your true age? Anyway, let's go our separate ways. If you're taking advantage of me, be careful with the big sword in my hand. You're welcome. Navia opened her eyes wide and said fiercely to her. Seeing this, Qian Lingfeng naturally stopped stimulating the other party. He raised his hands to show his surrender, while gesturing for the other party to wait for him for a moment. Then, under Navia's puzzled gaze, he walked to the bottom of a very large maple tree. I collected a bouquet of glazed lilies and bought a good-looking stone pendant from the owner of Jiatsuishing not far away. After playing with it for a while, I put it away. With a puzzled expression on her face, Navia walked towards the direction of the Hall of the People. I still plan to take the other party to fill their stomachs first, and then go see Ningguang and her daughter. Of course, this is only one aspect of the reason, and the most important one is the one who followed secretly. Quickly, the two of them stepped into the Wanmin Hall and found a well-lit place to sit down. It can be seen that since you returned to Liyue, the false smile on your face has been lost. But are you planning to entertain me in such a place? After sitting down, Navia also made a rare joke. Just before making fun of it, don't forget to satirize it first. Hee, you. My smile has never been false, I can only say it's more heartfelt now. After all, this is my current home. Qian Lingfeng didn't take it to heart, just as he said. Indeed, Liyue and the kingdom he lived in his previous life can only be considered as two similar flowers. However, for him, Liyue now has his family and career, as well as two beloved wives from the bottom of his heart. He is now truly immersing himself in the country of Liyue. Lingfeng, you're back. It's been a while since I last saw you. Oh, I also brought friends this time. What do you want to eat? Master Mao is treating you today. Soon, Qian Lingfeng, who was familiar with Xiangling's father, greeted him. Master Mao, you can treat me anytime you want. But there's no need for this meal. I'll still follow the old rules here. Please serve a almond curd at the next table, and bother cooking with the mountain spring water of Qingce village. Finally, I will pack a golden shrimp balls and a boiled cabbage. By the way, please let Qianling cook. As the host, Qian Lingfeng naturally arranged everything. I was not polite to Master Mao, nor was I polite to Navia. Ha, you are still so particular. I know, things made when people get old are no longer pleasing. Master Mao smiled and agreed, then walked towards the kitchen. Don't be fooled by how luxurious this place is. A delicacy cooked by the little chef Qianling. That can definitely be considered a masterpiece of Liyue. After all, this is what our emperor personally said. Seeing Master Mao walking down, Qian Lingfeng once again responded to Navia's previous words. Are you the gods of Liyue? Navia was slightly surprised, completely unaware of this not luxurious store. Surprisingly, there is such a big background. Chapter 3. The real culprit behind the scenes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yes, that deity who belongs exclusively to us, Liyue. Qian Lingfeng nodded and said to the old man who was determined to retire. He respects the other person from the bottom of his heart. I didn't expect there to be someone who made you show this expression on your face. Although the other person is a deity, it is truly surprising. Seeing Qian Lingfeng's different side, Navia also felt a little emotional for a moment. After all, the other party's unconventional and cynical style has already deeply ingrained in people's hearts. Because of his existence, I have today. And even if we don't talk about the cause and effect between us, the other party's contribution to Liyue. It is also worth remembering for all the people of Liyue. Qian Lingfeng shook his head gently and spoke very seriously. He is extremely satisfied with the life he has now. Except for him and the other two women, Ningguang Keqing, walking together. It is not an exaggeration to say that in the absence of the gods. Now he can easily trigger a huge financial storm in several countries. Otherwise, how could he possibly just simply dividing the power map into several countries? And his actions do not mean that no one will see them out. For example, Lisa from Mond, the divine son of Inami, and Aya from Shinri, as well as Al-Hassan from Sumi. As for Fengdan's side, perhaps the faucet has not yet focused its gaze on him. After all, he just bid farewell to Maple Dan, and currently, what is on the surface over there is still Thorny Rose walking. Perhaps Linny could see something, but the other party's camp belonged to the group of legal fools. However, even so, no one pointed it out. The reason for this is naturally very simple, that is, its emergence is for the economic development of several countries. That also has strong support. In addition, this world is a world of gods, with a divine foundation. As intelligent people, they naturally will not oppose all of his actions. Just for his vigilance, he has risen to the highest level below the gods. So, since it's already Liyue now, should you tell me who the culprit who framed my father as agreed? After hesitating for a while, Navia finally asked the question she most wanted to ask. Her father had only been fighting to death for a short time, so theoretically, she could never have left Fengdan with Qian Lingfeng no matter what. However, Qian Lingfeng told her that as long as she arrived at Liyue, she could tell the truth about the matter. She, who had noticed something fishy from the beginning, naturally followed him without hesitation. Then, amidst all the agony along the way, I finally arrived at Liyue. Despite the beautiful scenery along the way, Liyue Port and Fengdan City also have a more fireworks atmosphere compared to each other. But she, who was determined to figure out the truth, had no other thoughts at this moment. Is the culprit? Actually, Brother Cares only wants you to live a happy and safe life. Otherwise, you wouldn't have entrusted me to take you to Liyue to relax. Are you sure you want to go against his last wish? When Qian Lingfeng spoke, he came into contact with the resolute gaze of the other person. My father and you have your own perspective. And as a child, I have also reached adulthood now. I think I have the right to know the truth about things. And you don't have to worry about me doing something foolish, I promise, before I have absolute certainty. I will never act recklessly. Navia approached with some excitement and grabbed Qian Lingfeng's arm, confessing to him. Don't get excited, don't get excited. I'll tell you, even though this series of things was planned by the other party later. But Ker's death was his own choice. Otherwise, just relying on Marcel, even if I don't take action, I think Brother Kers can handle it himself. Qian Lingfeng reached out and lightly patted the jade hand that was afraid of the other party. He did not conceal too much, but in reality, it was as he said. Kere's situation is mainly that he is currently suffering from a terminal illness. Otherwise, relying on the other party's ability to step by step make Simiai go where she is today. The other party's methods are naturally self-evident. Qian Lingfeng once expressed to him that he could help eliminate Marcel when he left Fengdan. Although that doesn't seem to align with his own interests. But solving a Marcel is not a difficult task for him either. For him, as long as he doesn't attract the attention of Fukuros, even if he faces Novelette directly, he won't be too worried. This does not mean that he or the people behind him have greater strength than Novelette. The main issue is that the other party is still inexperienced in the world, before experiencing the trial of Fukuros. That's definitely a dragon that abides by rules, and since something has rules. For Qian Lingfeng, there is naturally room for operation. Moreover, whether it is his desire or pleasure, they can to some extent represent Liu. So he naturally wouldn't worry too much about Novelette. But Fukuros is completely different, just the other party's sacrifice. From the perspective of their own planning for hundreds of years of layout for Fengdan. Whenever the other person's gaze is directed towards him, as long as they feel that he will influence their plans. So unless Zhongli comes personally, there is no possibility of resistance or reasoning between him and she. The best outcome is to be imprisoned until everything is settled, and then wait for the judgment of Novelette after becoming a complete dragon. That's not the result he wanted, so even in Maple Dan, where the divine power is weakest. He also had no intention of causing trouble at all. Uncle Marcel. No, Marcel. How could it be him? And how could he possibly, and what reasons do he have to target his father? He was able to reach his current position, and his father helped him a lot back then. Navia covered her little mouth with an incredulous expression, even though she seemed reluctant to believe it. But from her address, it can be seen that her favoritism towards Marcel has completely disappeared. The matter. Qian Lingfeng waved his hand as he was about to speak up and explain. The dishes are here, Brother Lingfeng. You have really come back. Mash. As Xiangling and Guoba arrived with delicious dishes, they also warmly greeted Qianlingfeng. It's Xiangling and Guoba. It's been a long time since we last saw each other. You're still so beautiful and cute. Let's eat first. I'll explain the specifics of the situation to you later. After saying hello to Xiangling and Guoba, Qian Lingfeng also signaled that it was not the right time for Navia to talk about that topic at this moment. Navia naturally has no objections to this. Despite her anxiety, she knew that the current situation was indeed untimely. Chapter 4. Expose the emergence of chat groups. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Do you want to have some Xiangling and Guoba together? Seeing the delicious food on the table, Qian Lingfeng also recruited both with a smile on his face. Seeing that it was her acquaintance, Navia also carefully scrutinized Xiangling at this moment. No, the kitchen still has something to do. Brother Lingfeng, please eat first. Is this almond curd on the table here? Qianling waved her hand and refused the other party's proposal. Okay, since that's the case, then go ahead and get busy. Qian Lingfeng nodded and didn't make any more invitations. Speaking of which, the other party is so busy now it seems to have some connection with him. Due to his appearance, the days of the people of Liyue are getting better and better now. In this way, as the capital of Liyue, various industries in Liyue port have naturally improved. And Wanmintang is naturally the top choice, with its exquisite taste and affordable price. Causing Xiangling to go out and search for ingredients they are all much less. For this, the other party has complained to him more than once. Xiao, you don't want Guoba to see you wasting food, do you? At this moment, Qian Lingfeng murmured softly. You. Navia looked at him with a puzzled expression, just as she was about to ask something. A blue figure instantly sat at the nearby table. Humph. Can't you just change your tone every time? After Mandrill appeared, he was not polite, and tasted the almond curd on the table. Then some people with no temper began to complain. Just his gaze, indeed, kept looking towards the direction where Guoba had just left. Hehe, it doesn't matter what you say or do, as long as it's useful. Qian Lingfeng is also very familiar with this Yiksha immortal whom he has known for several years. After all, he was able to wander around after leaving Liyue, except for his own certain strength. This person gives him more confidence, but it's even more abundant. Bored, you spend your mind on these aspects. It's better to focus more on improving and enhancing your own strength. She finished speaking calmly without turning his head. I just tasted the delicious food on the table seriously. Who is this one? At this moment, Navia also approached Qian Lingfeng, facing the sudden appearance of this person. She also asked Qian Lingfeng with a curious gaze. Hehe. This one is the treasure of our Liyue. Qian Lingfeng explained with a smile on his face. But it has attracted some dissatisfaction from Xiao. It's boring, I'll leave first. Next time you have something to do, just call me by my first name. I saw Xiao quickly finish his meal and then leave a sentence that disappeared into the Wanmin Hall. Still so proud and charming. But each and every one of you is truly an indispensable presence for us, Liyue. Qian Lingfeng murmured softly, and the other party's departure was also within his expectations. After all, every time I return to my home country, isn't that the same process? And the reason why he chose to stay at the Wanmin Hall without instructing Ningguang to arrange it. The bigger reason, of course, is also to take care of the feelings of the mandarins. Do you seem to respect him quite a bit? This is really a rare sight. At this moment, Navia next to her also asked curiously again. Now that we know the real culprit behind the scenes, it's unbelievable. But I'm not so eager for the inside information anymore. On the contrary, I was curious about the short stature that could make the person in front of me show this posture. Hurry up and have dinner, niece. I'll arrange a place for you after we finish. Qian Lingfeng smiled and patted the other person's fragrant shoulder, although Zhao's matter was not a big secret. But obviously, explaining it is also very complicated. After greeting the other person for a meal, he casually reached out for the previously purchased shipper. Then he took out a delicate small knife and carved it. Not long after, when Navia finished her meal, he also had one in his hand, a lifelike imperial figurine. It's quite nice, I didn't expect you to have such skills and hobbies. Upon seeing this, Navia also had a hint of surprise in her eyes. Obviously, I didn't expect that at that moment, a stone petal just through the other party's momentary processing, it has become so exquisite and lovely. Just as Qian Lingfeng was about to say something. Suddenly, on this clear and clear day, an incredibly huge light curtain appeared in the sky. This is Othello. No, it can't be him. On the contrary, it's a bit like. Qian Lingfeng ran out of the Wanmin Hall and saw the situation. At first, he thought it was Othello who had run out ahead of time. However, after seeing the light curtain clearly, this conjecture was instantly overturned. It's obvious that Othello can't come up with such a battle yet. Instead, it reminded him of the legendary system. However, currently he is not too certain. System, is that you? I'm almost becoming Tivat's richest man now, why are you only here now? Qian Lingfeng took a deep breath, calmed his mood for a moment, and then asked in his heart. Although his days are now very comfortable. But if he really has a golden finger, how could he not be excited? However, after he asked but there was no response. What's the situation? Are your Liyue's specialties? But it doesn't seem very similar. After being surprised, Navia looked at Qian Lingfeng and asked. She originally thought this was something special about Liyue. But when you see the screams of people around you, she knew that such a situation should also have appeared for the first time in Liyue. I don't know for now. Master Mao, the account has been transferred to the Hengbai Chamber of Commerce. I'll leave first. Qian Lingfeng shook his head, but did not receive a response. He is now unclear about the specific situation. However, he immediately spoke to Master Mao and quickly led Navia towards the Chuanyu Pavilion. Exposure chat group invites you to join. Yes. Agree. Suddenly, this kind of information fell into the minds of everyone in Liyue. Just seeing those two choices left everyone speechless for a moment. I thought to myself, your feelings have never given us a chance to refuse. It's indeed a system, it should look like a live broadcast exposure type, right? This shouldn't be my fault. Right. Qian Lingfeng naturally received the message, and the name of this chat group reminded him of something. In this way, even though it doesn't seem like his golden finger. But if he were to answer the question, he felt that his advantage still lies in himself. Just exposing 2 words, he had some unpleasant premonitions in his heart. Chapter 5. This brings everyone in. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At the same time, not only the people of Liyue can see such a light curtain. Putting down the documents in Mon's piano, Lisa put down the book in her hand, and Coffee Bennett put down the water spinach in his hand. Barbara put down her idol's self. Cultivation Rees put down the little wolf cub in his hand. Fisher put down the Oz in his hand. Dialect let go of Kaya in his arms. Wendy took the opportunity to pass a bottle of apple cider. A certain yellow-haired person also put down the emergency food in their hand at the rice wife's side, while the god's son is eating oily bean curd. I wonder if this is something my old friend caused, and not only her, but also the entire Inami family thought this was a commotion caused by their own shogun. Only General, we have already communicated with Shadow about whether or not to take a cut. After all, in her settings, it is uncertain whether this situation will hinder eternity at this moment. Everyone on Sumi's side, including Naxita, summarized it as the manifestation of the Tree King. Fengdan also pushed it onto his own deity. Funina, who was originally still trembling with fear, also bravely performed in front of the public again. In the winter, it was suddenly seen as a signal to counterattack the principles of heaven. At this moment, from some executives to fools, everyone began to scratch their hands. Have you received any invitation messages? As soon as Qian Lingfeng arrived at the Chuanyu Pavilion, he encountered Ningguang and Keqing walking towards him. Next to them stood Ganyu, as well as Bai Wen-san behind him. Ningguang didn't hesitate to ask Qian Lingfeng directly. It seems that you have all received it. Since you can't resist, let's go in and take a look. Qian Lingfeng nodded, relying solely on the expressions on the faces of the group. He had an answer in his heart. In this way, it naturally fulfilled his conjecture. This so-called exposure chat group seems to make people die in front of everyone. At this moment, his heart also felt somewhat relieved. After all, before crossing, whether it's a serious video or Genshin Impact at Kwang. He doesn't say he knows everything, he should have seen anything of some quality. And the most crucial thing is all the videos and second creations, it has nothing to do with him. As for exposing others, he can only express his sadness, illness, and madness in his heart. Whether it's Ingmei or Longa, just expose it to me with all your might. When others die, he may be able to watch a play and perhaps even receive rewards. Why is it that his heart feels a little uneasy about such a delightful thing? Is that right? Then join in and take a look first. Ningguang pondered for a while and also agreed with Qian Lingfeng's statement. No matter what happens, one must go and see if there is any harm to Liyue. However, before they could click to agree, they found themselves and others being directly pulled into the chat group. Didi. Amber joins the chat group. Didi. Dialect joins the chat group. Didi. Qin joined the chat group. Didi. Kaya joined the chat group. Didi. Bennett joined the chat group. Didi. Noel joins the chat group. Didi. Barbara joins the chat group. Didi. Wendy joined the chat group. Didi. Lisa joined the chat group. Didi. Kelly joined the chat group. Didi. Abito joins the chat group. Didi. Ningguang joins the chat group. Didi. Keqing joins the chat group. Didi. Ganyu joins the chat group. Didi. Qian Lingfeng joined the chat group. Didi. Zhongli joined the chat group. Didi. Walnut joins the chat group. Didi. Join the chat group in Xingqiu. Didi. Join the chat group. Didi. Shenhe joins the chat group. Didi. Luyan borrowed the wind to join the chat group, Jinjuan. Didi. Eightfold Divine Sun joins the chat group. Didi. Shinli Lingren joins the chat group. Drop. Kamisato Ayaka joins the chat group. Didi. Xiaogong joins the chat group. Didi. Jukarin joined the chat group. Didi. Wild Dragon Edo joins the chat group. Didi. Jushiaxia joins the chat group. Didi. Join the chat group with Shadow. Drip. Join the chat group for dry smoking. Didi. Coral Palace Heart C joins the chat group. Didi. Goro joined the chat group. Didi. Zhiping joins the chat group. Didi. Seno joined the chat group. Didi. Alhaisen joins the chat group. Didi. Tinari joined the chat group. Didi. Kawi joined the chat group. Didi. Koli joined the chat group. Didi. Layla joins the chat group. Didi. Azar joins the chat group. Di Xia joins the chat group. Didi. Candice joins the chat group. Didi. Navya joins the chat group. Didi. Funina joins the chat group. Didi. Novelette joined the chat group. Didi. Leasili joins the chat group. Didi. Clawland joins the chat group. Didi. Linny joined the chat group. Didi. Lynette joined the chat group. Didi. Charlotte joins the chat group. Didi. Dadaria joins the chat group. Didi. Panterone joins the chat group. Didi. Puxanella joins the chat group. Didi. Archino joins the chat group. Didi. Sandone joined the chat group. Didi. Rosalind joins the chat group. Didi. Goranbia joined the chat group. Didi. Duo Tori joined the chat group. Didi. Skaramsai joins the chat group. Didi. Carpetano joins the chat group. Didi. Piero joined the chat group. Didi. Ing joined the chat group. Didi. Join the chat group empty. Didi. Paimeng joined the chat group. Didi. Yuan Xia joined the chat group. Didi. Daneslab joined the chat group. Didi. Tuolin joined the chat group. Didi. If the Dragon King joins the chat group. Didi. Apep joins the chat group. Didi. Othello joins the chat group. Didi. Join the chat group with a slow pace. Didi. Silk-ku joins the chat group. In seclusion, Didi. Ah-ci joins the chat group. Conscious body asleep, Didi. Fukaros joins the chat group. Sleeping, Didi. Fanes joins the chat group. Sleeping, as familiar names appear, especially those unconsciously pulled in later. Qian Lingfeng was also clearly stunned, obviously not expecting that even that person would be pulled in. In this way, it may be the entire Tivat people. I guess they all got pulled in. Chapter 6. The Void Discovered by Ying. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What's wrong with you? But what's wrong with you? Ningguang immediately noticed the abnormality of Qianlingfeng. Immediately curious, he opened his mouth and asked him. No, just encountering some unexpected people. Qian Lingfeng waved his hand but did not explain anything to him. There are indeed some things that people cannot believe when they speak up. For example, the principles of heaven should only be known by people at the level of the 7 gods and the Dragon King. And Fanes perhaps even fewer people know. Unexpected person. It seems like you know a lot of people. By the way, won't you introduce this young lady? When Ningguang saw the situation, he naturally didn't ask too many questions, and the cooperation between the two over the years was also incredibly tacit. Seeing the other person without saying anything, she naturally knew what the reason was. At the same time, it naturally opened up the topic. This is the eldest lady of the Maple Blossom Society and the current head of the family, Navya. She will stay at Liyue for a while and arrange a place for her later. Qian Lingfeng also came to his senses, but the sudden appearance of the chat group made him forget some things. This is the condensation of light, the clear moment, the sweet rain, and the 100 hearing, 100 dawn, and 100 consciousness. Ningguang and Keqing are my lovers. Then he introduced the Ningguang girls to Navya. Hello Miss Navya, I am Ningguang. Since it's Ling Feng's friend, just treat this place as your own home. You can come to me for anything in Liyue. Ningguang also greeted him very appropriately. The following people also followed suit and greeted Navya. Navya blinked her big eyes and then seemed to remember something fun. His lover. So should I address the 2 aunts? I saw her with a very innocent expression, smiling and asking Ningguang and Keqing. At this sudden moment, Ningguang quickly reacted and didn't pay much attention to such a title. Just looked at Qian Lingfeng and smiled. Keqing, on the other hand, suddenly felt unwell and was called auntie by someone about her age. How do you make her adapt to such a thing? She was stunned for a moment. Oh. My niece has figured it out and is finally willing to call me uncle. Qian Lingfeng also launched a timely counterattack against it. Seeing that he didn't look embarrassed, Navya naturally felt as if she was deflated. If she really calls her uncle, she won't be able to shout it out. Alright, they are guests from afar, so don't bully them. At the critical moment of the condensation, he stood up and said something. Yes, but I haven't bullied her before. Qian Lingfeng shook his head and said, as if recalling something after speaking, I took out the previously picked glass lilies and the delicious food packaged back at the Wanmin Hall. This is where I just appeared in the morning sun, picking flowers at the highest point of Liyue. And the boiled cabbage that I personally cooked for you. Although flowers are beautiful, they are still less than 1,000th of yours. As he spoke, he naturally placed flowers and delicious food in the other person's hand. He, Ling Tian, you have a heart. Ningguang smiled slightly and also very cooperatively took it over. Humph. On the other hand, as soon as Keqing turned around, she suddenly took a bite of dog food. Nature is very dissatisfied with the differential treatment of someone. Hehe, you naturally have it too. This is the deepest part of the earth where I am looking for a stone vase that has absorbed the essence of the sun and the moon for thousands of years. Then I carved it into such a shape, and I cooked golden shrimp balls for you with qingshi dew. I wonder if Miss Keqing likes it. In such a situation, Qian Lingfeng was naturally very adept at handling it. Wow. Okay. Cough. Since you have a heart, I'll reluctantly accept it for now. It can only be said that she is truly a carved cat. Seeing the statue of the emperor carved by Sherpa, her heartfelt joy cannot be concealed. However, seeing so many people nearby, he also picked them up with a slightly red face. After playing with her hand for a while, she saw everyone looking at her before putting it away. When Gan Yu and a few people envy the relationship between them on the side. On one side, Navya surprisingly grew up with a small mouth. The morning sun has just emerged, is the highest point of the moon. Hand-collected morning dew to cook delicious food. The deepest part of the earth. Can it also absorb the essence of the sun and the moon? Whenever she didn't see it with her own eyes, she felt that seeing that person's serious demeanor would lead her to believe it. But what she had to lament was this person is really good at it, The taste is great, but it's clearly made by Qianling, isn't it? You are too shameless. After tasting a golden shrimp balls, Keqing at one side mercilessly dismantled someone. It's just a gesture in my hand, but there's no pause at all. It can be seen that her love for golden shrimp balls is really unusual. You. How come you're the Jade Heng star, and Ningguang is the heavenly power? Qian Lingfeng also walked forward impolitely and vigorously kneaded the other person's face. It's obvious that these are just some mood regulators between them, and they know how to cooperate with him even without seeing Ningguang. Otherwise, with the other party's eyeliner, let alone in Liyue. Perhaps some of his movements abroad have fallen into the eyes of the other party. With such interaction, Navya quickly became familiar with everyone. Meanwhile, the people in the chat group, after a while of vigilance, some people gradually began to speak up. Yan Fei said, although it's unbelievable that such a thing happened, is Eula really you? Eula. Are you Yan Fei? Are you okay now? Hu Tao said, oh my. Is this Yan Fei your friend? The head of our hall has never seen him before. I wonder if this friend needs the service of the rebirth hall. Xiangling. I haven't seen this friend of senior sister either. But Hu Tao, you still remember to promote your business everywhere. Yan Fei said, Eula is from Mond. She saved me before, so please don't cause trouble here, Hu Tao. Kaya. Oh, is the name Eula's friend in Liyue? I wonder what kind of formal service is this rebirth hall service. Hu Tao. He. This guest really has vision. Let's go to the hall of rebirth. However, before Walnut could finish speaking, her casting was interrupted for the first time. Ying. Brother. Is that you? Why don't you come to find me? Pai Meng. Traveler, is your brother also inside? Amber. Wow. Traveler, did you find your brother so quickly? That's really great. Qin. Honor Knight, have you found your brother? Congratulations. Lisa. Congratulations, little cutie. Kelly. He. Kelly also congratulates Honor Knight's sister. Ying. Brother. Why are you ignoring me? Empty. At this moment, Qian Lingfeng saw the situation and also knew the approximate timeline of the current situation. The traveler is Ying Mei, and currently has become an honorary knight. I just don't know if the Tuolin incident has been resolved. Chapter 7. On the Abyss. You go take down Morax. You are listening at novel full.audio. At this moment, hiding in the abyss space, I looked at this chat group with an uncomfortable expression on my face. Heaven and earth have a conscience, he never wanted to join from the bottom of his heart. After all, what he has to do, it can be said that to a certain extent, it stands on the opposite side of everyone in Tivat. At the beginning, he was caught by his sister, which made his already unhappy mood even worse. Your Highness, your blood relatives are calling you in the chat group. Seeing his own leader fall into silence, Yuan Shangqian on one side timely spoke up to remind him. Upon hearing the other person's words, Kong, who was in the first place, had a cold expression on his face. The frost fell behind, and the rapids quickly hid behind. At the same time, he was secretly cursing that brainless guy from Yuan Shang in his heart. I don't have eyes, do I? I still need you from Abyssal to become my eyes. I saw Kong walking step by step towards the abyss with a cold face, carrying a strong pressure. Ah! This. It's just a reminder to your Highness the Prince. Yuan Shang also realized something was wrong at this moment and responded with a somewhat guilty tone. Ha Yuan Shang. You've been following me for many days, haven't you? Take a deep breath in the air and then softly utter a sentence. Your Highness, I have been following you for 500 years. I will always be loyal to you. Upon hearing this, Yuan Shang was overjoyed and thought that the other party was going to commend him. After hastily responding, he turned around without a trace and glanced at the few people whose frost had fallen. There was an indescribable pride in those eyes. However, a few people responded to him with a look of foolishness. Since that's the case, I have a very important task assigned to you here. I hope you don't disappoint me. Kong nodded, and seeing the appearance of Yuan Shang, he also lost his intention of punishment. I just want to find a reason and dismiss the other party first. His Royal Highness, please give orders, even if it means risking your life. I will definitely complete the task you instructed, Your Highness the Prince. At this moment, the expression of joy on Yuan Shang's face became increasingly intense. Perhaps you can suspect that sometimes he just doesn't have the brain to do things. But his loyalty to the heir is indeed beyond doubt. Yuan Shang, you also know that Ying is about to arrive at Liyue right now. As a hostile deity, I am somewhat worried that Morax will take action against Ying. Yuan Shang. Now I order you to infiltrate the land of Liyue and take down Morax. Go up in the air and block the shoulders of Yuan Shang. After speaking seriously, he made a gesture of beheading. Is it for the safety of your blood relatives, Your Highness the Prince? I'll set off now and definitely complete the task assigned by Your Highness the Prince. Yuan Shang left with a serious expression in front of the heir. There was not even a moment of hesitation on his face, and he couldn't help but be stunned when he saw this operation. Your Highness, even though that person in the abyss lacks a single muscle in his brain. But there's no need to just let him die like this. Not to mention the deity of Liyue, perhaps he can't even see the immortals of that country. After all, Li Yu's current national strength is undoubtedly the leader of the Seven Kingdoms. Seeing the departure of the Abyss Apostle rushed forward and spoke to the heir. He also came to seek mercy from Kong based on the feelings of Tongzi. It doesn't matter, as long as Morax doesn't show his true face, he will only suffer some skin pain at most. It can also be considered to have boosted his brain to some extent. Empty waved his hand, and there was the power of the abyss on the abyss. Perhaps in terms of combat, he couldn't even pass the level of Liyue 7 stars. After all, even he was somewhat shocked by the changes in Liyue now. But as long as Yuan Shang wants to leave, in his opinion, even if the fairy of Liyu makes a move, it will be difficult to keep him. And Morax, he also has a certain understanding of it. Leaving aside whether the other party will come forward, even if they do, it is usually just a seal. However, this side has just made a move to defeat Yuan Shang. The screen in the chat group is now a bit angry. Ying. Empty, you're talking to me, damn. A few hundred. I haven't seen you learn to pretend to be dead in a while, have you? From the joy of seeing her brother at first, Ying Mei went on to the anger of the other person who remained silent. At this moment, I was so angry that I almost exposed my age. At the same time, Ying, who had just walked out of the stone gate, also patted her chest. I thought to myself that I was lucky enough to break the car, but all of this was strange and empty. If it weren't for him, how could he have almost let it slip? Thinking so, she gritted her teeth even more, already thinking about how to concoct each other when the two met. Amber. Brother of the traveler, speak quickly. Do you know how anxious the traveler is to find you? Pai Meng. Yes, the current traveler is really sad. Amber and Pemin also quickly spoke up to persuade. Indeed, as Amber said, the majority of Ying Mei's thoughts at this moment are focused on finding her brother. Far from reaching the appearance of the crumbs behind. Kali. Hey Amber, is it really you? Amber. Wow. Cole, it's me. Are you okay now? Yura. Oh, is this Amber your friend? Amber. Hee, this is Amber Cole from Sumi, Cole. You are all my best friends. Hatchet Shinzi. Oh. Have you met good friends? Although it's a very joyful thing, the brother of that foreign traveler still doesn't speak. This damn fox woman will teach her a lesson sooner or later. Kong originally looked at the topic that was about to diverge, but still breathed a slight sigh of relief in his heart. But at this moment, the 8 heavenly gods appeared unexpectedly. Your Highness the Prince, do you need your subordinates to do her? Seeing his leader's displeasure towards the fox woman, the Abyss Apostle Frostfall stood up and asked. Kong looked at the other person with a foolish expression, thinking to himself that this person might have been infected by Yuan Shang. If you go to find trouble with that fox woman with Inami, and attract Tian Shogu, he won't be able to reason with you at all. And now he doesn't want to confront the gods. Ying. Empty, are you really going to pretend to be dead? If there were an emoji, Ying Mei would definitely be burning with anger at this moment. Kong. Ying, we will eventually reunite, but don't worry. I have enough time to wait for you. Ying. What? Paimon Amber. What? Lisa. What? Kaya. What? Kelly. What? Back home Shensi. Oh It seems like something was said, but why doesn't it seem like nothing was said? At this moment, the eightfold divine sun is laughing uncontrollably in Mingxian Dash. Even the oily bean curd in her hand was put aside by her. And the light novels that are still ahead are no longer there. After all, what could be more fun for her than such a family drama? Travelers from a foreign land, the Mondragon disaster as a wife of rice and above countless people, she naturally wouldn't have no news at all. It's just that her brother appeared so quickly, which surprised her a bit. However, in this way, it becomes even more interesting, isn't it? Chapter 8. Qian Lingfeng. I want to duel with you in front of me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ningguang said, I believe this must be the legendary riddle person. At this point, Ningguang is also speaking for the first time in the chat group, regarding the situation of Ying Mei. She doesn't just know so easily, even where the other person is now, she has a clear understanding in her heart. Dolly. Mora this beautiful and kind-hearted Lord Ningguang is right. Ningguang said, if you can speak, speak more. Ningguang gladly accepts praise from others. Just this Dolly, I believe the other party is coming towards Mora, and she also has some cooperation with the other party. Therefore, she naturally has a lot of information about the other party in her hands. Liyue resident. Are you from a foreign country? I didn't expect that Lord Ningguang's reputation would spread to a foreign land. Hu Tao. Heavenly power condenses light, wealthy side, bright eyes favor, peach shy apricot yield. Lord Ningguang is still very easy to get along with. Keqing. Oh. Master Hu, are you alluding to someone? Hu Tao said, haha, no, definitely not. The funeral hall is a grand treat, buy one get one free, buy two get three free. Buy more and get more free. Qianling. Hee, Master Keqing can still cure you, Hu Tao. Ying. Riddle person, right. Then you can hide it for me. If I find it one day, there will definitely be no good fruit to eat. Empty. Ying Mei also took a deep breath, which could be considered calming her mood. Seeing her brother safe, her worries naturally dissipated. She naturally felt very unhappy about the other person's behavior as a riddle. She swore that on the day she saw the other person, she would teach them a good lesson. Huan Longido said, ha ha ha, what brother and sister are you? Do so many people know me? Is there still Lingfeng brothers around? Jutiao Canera said, hee, who would know you as a ghost? You'd better hand over the eye of God as soon as possible. And I advise you to stay away from that person, otherwise you'll have to count his money for him one day if he's sold, said Judiao Swarishaogong. Hey! Is Lingfeng also inside here? Back Hong Shensi. Hee, is that little guy? It's quite interesting, but unfortunately we didn't get to see each other. Lisa. Hee. He's really an interesting person. Do you think so, Qin? Lisa. Yura. Is that bad guy who made me take 128 grudges? Kamisato Ayaka. Lingfeng. Nilu. Is Lingfeng here? Long time no see. Dina Zidai. Mr. Lingfeng. Di Xia. Why hasn't Lingfeng come out yet? Is it difficult or shy? Candice. Although I saw you a few days ago, you are always welcome to visit the desert, Lingfeng. Lynette. Dang. I haven't seen each other for a while, and some people are starting to miss you. Linny. Are you thinking of him, or do you think that when he comes, you can have unlimited access to pastries? Lynette. Oh, is there any difference? Femini. So should I call him brother. In law? Linny. Qianli Lingren said, Qian Lingfeng, come out and I will duel with you in front of me. Qianli Lingren was already very wary of Qian Lingfeng, who had come to Ina wife in the first place. She never expected that the other party would not only provoke some girls in Ina wife. Nowadays, people from other countries seem to provoke them a lot. Thomas. Master, come on. Kamisato Ayaka. Brother. Linny. Dueling. Add me too. Dardaria. Hello, everything must have a first come, first served, okay. Although that person is a bit shameless, I will have a fair duel with him sooner or later. Dolly. Mora. That old master is such a great person. So many people are calling out to you. It seems that you have met many people abroad in recent years. On this side, Ningguang saw that Qian Lingfeng did not respond to the chat group and also spoke up to remind him. At the same time, he smiled and joked with the other person. Humph. A big carrot with a flower heart. Keqing was also angry and murmured roast. On one side, Navya opened her eyes wide, feeling as if she was about to see someone's harem on fire. Ganyu and Baiwen had already left at this moment, although Ningguang had already spoken to let them rest for a day. But Ganyu still said that she hasn't finished her work today. The women who had originally planned to take care of it all became so angry when they saw Ganyu, and they naturally expressed their frustration that they also wanted to continue working. But at this moment, Qian Lingfeng is chatting with others at the same time. He has already started researching the functions of this chat group. It is obvious that chatting is just a basic function, and he also discovered teleportation, cross-regional duels, cross-border duels, and cross-regional world duels inside. And there are two types of duels, one is non-lethal, and the other is truly life and death duels. The functions of teleportation and dueling are now available for use. On the contrary, the points mall that he most wants to know about is still gray at the moment. That means he can't open it yet, so he started thinking in his mind about how to earn points. It wasn't until now that Ningguang's shout brought him back to his senses. Oh. It's them. Qian Lingfeng nodded, saying that after knowing, he reached out and rubbed the cat's ears, steamed cat-ear-shaped bread, of the cat, and then began to respond in the chat group. Qian Lingfeng said, "Hello everyone, I'm glad you still have an impression of me." Qian Lingfeng said, "Don't you two uncles be safe? Is the food of Dadaya Qianyan army still to your taste?" After responding to the crowd, he also greeted the people of Shunli Ling, Lini, and Dadaria alone. Shunli Lingren said, "Who would be your uncle? Either you and I will fight in front of you, or you will not appear in front of Linghua in the future." Lini. What Mr. Shunli Lingren is saying is that people like you will lead Lynette astray. Madam. Oh. Is this a free feast for Liyue, young master? I didn't expect you to receive such treatment. I hope you don't neglect the task assigned to you by the queen. Sanbing. Hee hee. I already said that joining us like him is just dragging us back. Young master. Cut, that's because you don't know how shameless this person is, but I'm sorry, Mr. Lingfeng. I have already regained my freedom. Upon hearing the young master's words, Qian Lingfeng was taken aback and then looked at Ningguang with a questioning look. A fairy stepped forward as a guarantor, and behind it seemed to be Mr. Zhongli from the Hall of Rebirth pushing his hand. I suspect that it is a certain immortal, but there has been no definite information. Ningguang also reluctantly spoke up and explained, although on the surface she was the leader of the 7 stars. She can almost make decisions about the entire Liyue matter. But if it involves immortals, she naturally has to respect their opinions. Especially after being with Qian Lingfeng, she learned some amazing news. Besides, Dadaria didn't do anything wrong himself. Instead, he was overshadowed by Qian Lingfeng and kept in prison for a long time. Chapter 9. Not calling you uncle. How about I treat you as? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is Mr. Zhongli actually a fairy? Upon hearing Ningguang's words, Keqing couldn't help but widen her eyes. Zhongli has also had contact with her before. After all, the other party's level of knowledge is so profound that everyone in Liyue Port knows it. She even invited others to work under her own command a few times. After all, that kind of person stays in the afterlife hall every day, either listening to music or walking birds. In her opinion, it's too much to bury the other person's talent. Is it an old man? It seems that he hasn't given up on that plan yet. Upon hearing what Zhongli meant, Qian Lingfeng nodded and naturally understood what was going on. He had previously had covert conversations with the other party, and his actions over the years have indeed made them very satisfied. But now the other party's actions, are you still thinking of testing the wave of Liyue or simply want a wallet that won't disturb him? This question is so profound that he was momentarily unsure. Do you really know that person's background? Is the plan you're talking about? Upon hearing Qian Lingfeng's words, Ningguang was also somewhat curious. Just at the critical moment, consideration was given to Navia and Keqing on the side. I still chose to stop asking. It's like this again. One day, the gods were mysterious and mysterious. You two are really annoying. And for such a situation, even if it's not the first time. Keqing is still a bit unhappy. She's not a child anymore, okay? I think maybe it won't be long before you know the details of everything. Qian Lingfeng smiled again and rubbed Keqing. He always hoped that Kumao Mao would live a more comfortable life. There is nothing we can do about Ningguang here. After all, the first time they met, the other person had already formed a shape. And the reason why he said that is naturally because of the emergence of this exposed chat group. After all, he doesn't think the old man can escape the punishment of exposure. Qianlingfeng said, Qian Lingfeng, don't pretend to be dead. Come out and give an explanation. Linny. Brother Lingren's words are very accurate. Kamisato Ayaka. Brother, Lingfeng and I haven't. Qianlingfeng said, don't worry about Linghua, it's a matter between men. Linny. Brother Lingren is not inferior to being a good brother. Lynette, don't worry about this either. Lynette. Oh. I didn't want to worry, did I? Back home Shensi. Puchi ha. I didn't expect you to have today too, little one. Do you still want to touch the tail of Lord Gongxi? Qian Lingfeng said, little fox, don't add fuel to the fire. I think it's better for us to talk about this privately, two uncles. Qianlingfeng said, who is your elder brother? You should surpass me before saying something similar. Linny. You're right, who would be your uncle? Servant. Oh. The child has grown up. Has the hormones started to sprout during adolescence? Lynette. Ah. Nothing, father. Seeing the servants come forward, Lynette is no longer as comfortable as dealing with her brother. Although she does have a certain fondness for Qianlingfeng, overall, the two only know each other for a long time. The other party stayed in Fengdan for a few months, but if it weren't for their humor and with the most important thing is that the other party always has a way to make themselves have endless pastries to eat, the two of them are probably just nodding acquaintances. Especially every time she sees her brother explode, she feels very happy in her heart. Well, it's definitely not because my brother is too strict with her. Linny. Father, that was all he yelled at, and I would never admit that identity title. Fearing that the other party would blame her sister, Linny quickly spoke up and explained. Servant. It's okay, do you think I'm just that unfriendly to you? Rooster. Hee hee. I didn't expect our colleagues to have such a scene again. Rich man. Who said it's not? Perhaps this is good news for Mr. Mayor. Servant. Puxanella, please don't do anything that makes me unhappy. Rooster. How could that be? My colleague. Sanbing. Ha ha ha. In other words, he made it clear that he was talking about catching your servant's weakness. Servant. Humph. Whether it's Puxanella, you can give it a try, or you, Skaramsai and Pantaron. Linny. Father. Servant. No need to say more. Sanbing. Humph. He's just a lunatic. Although they may not admit defeat, the scattered soldiers at this moment are still very wary of their servants. Qian Lingfeng said, oh. If you don't want me to call you uncle brother, then I can accept it if you call me mother. Madam. Puff. Ha ha ha. This chat group has made me feel so interesting for the first time. Dardaria. Warrior. Rich man. I have heard of your excellency Qian Lingfeng for a long time, but now it is truly admirable. Girl. Hee hee. It's really interesting. Puppet. Absurd. Eightfold divine son. Who said it's not? The little one's courage is still as strong as ever. Pai Meng. Ah. It's the bad woman who appeared at the entrance of Shifeng Church. Luyan borrowed the wind from Jinjuan and said, you're reckless, witch woman. Ying. You just found out. That hatred will be returned to her. Madam. Hee hee. I look forward to you coming to me. Seeking revenge on me. Due to the emergence of chat groups, Qian Lingfeng has also started to be more open. After these words, the foolish executives were almost blown out. At the beginning, Linny didn't even turn around for a moment and was stunned, but immediately upon realizing it, his entire face turned red. Linny. You. I want to fight to the death with you. Servant. Linny, see your position clearly, don't be blinded by anger. Servant. Mr. Qian Lingfeng, right. Looking forward to meeting you. Very plain language, as if everything had nothing to do with her. Just how her heart is at this moment, perhaps only she herself knows. After all, it seems that my own child has been bullied, and I have also been teased. Thinking of this, she unconsciously curled up the corner of her mouth, and also became interested in Qian Lingfeng. If she doesn't have any real skills when she sees the other person, then she will die. Chapter 10. The Proud Great Sage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qian Lingfeng said, Hee, it's easy to say. I've always enjoyed making friends. Huan Longdo said, ha. That's right, Ling Feng, you are indeed a brother. Qian Lingfeng said, Brother Ido flattered me, it was just a small gesture, and I was also familiar with a Ren when we were in Liyue. Jiu Qiren said, Lord Ling Feng. Qian Lingfeng said, just call me Lingfeng. Ah, Ren doesn't need to be so polite. Huan Longdo said, ha. No, they're all good brothers. Ah, Ren, don't be so outspoken. Hu Tao. Hee. Ling Feng, the main hall leader, did not see you wrong. Do you think you should? Qian Lingfeng said, Little Walnut, there's no need to say more. Your idea is good. Let's first discuss it with Dolly and consider it a pilot project. Qian Lingfeng directly pointed through the little careful thought of the walnut. It's nothing more than hoping to leverage his network to expand the Hall of Rebirth. In fact, this is indeed a good business, and people are afraid of death, but death is something that no one can escape. Just because of the particularity of the business, he thought it over and indeed only felt that Dolly was the most suitable. After all, if Dolly can't handle it, it's almost impossible for the other party to promote it. Hu Tao. Hee. Ling Feng, you're really great, but where am I? You're not much older than me, okay? Huan Longdo said, Brother Ling Feng, do you have any business here? I wonder if our Huan Long sect is suitable for you. Qian Lingfeng said, Your country is quite suitable, but I'm afraid it's not very convenient for your wild dragon sect now. To be reasonable, now Inami is in a war like that, and due to the terrain. In addition, the gods do not care about things, and the oppression of several major practices makes life difficult for the rice wives. It can be said that the country over there is currently the most chaotic, and the number of deaths is indeed the highest. But it has become increasingly difficult to expand the business of the Shishing Hall over there. Most of the people who died there were struggling to make ends meet, and there was no extra money to handle their affairs. And this is still the situation of Inami after his intervention. You should know that although he has accumulated wealth, he has actually brought huge benefits to the people of Inami. Otherwise, how could Shensi allow him to expand his influence in Inami's territory? Huan Longdo said, Why are we not suitable now? Brother, you have to trust me. Jutiao Canera said, Hee. I believe you, if it weren't for Arnon, you might still be in prison now. Those who are sensible should hand over the eye of God as soon as possible. Huan Longdo said, Ah. You. Despicable. I won't yield to you, 9 heavenly dogs. Pai Meng. It seems that Inami's side is a bit unsafe, but fortunately our goal is not that way. Ying. It doesn't matter anymore, let's count it wherever we go. Brother or something, let's not do it anymore. Empty. Dolly. Mora. Master Lingfeng and Lord Ningguang are indeed the biggest benefactors in Dolly's life. Dolly. You can trust me to handle the matters on Sumi's side. I will definitely handle them for you. Hu Tao. Oh, is it the business from Xumi's side? This is really great. Lingfeng, are you really not considering joining the Shishing Hall? Hu Tao said, I can consider giving you the first guest. It would be great if Zhongli, that antique, had the same ability as you. Zhongli, what Master Hu said is true. Wendy. Sigh. I've discovered something interesting. Qian Lingfeng said, ahem. Hu Tao, you look up to me. I'm not suitable for the job at the Shishing Hall. Seeing Qian Lingfeng's refusal, Hu Tao didn't say much. After all, this was not her first time sending out an invitation. Azar. Humph. You're actually a descendant of my Xumi. What do you mean by flattering the people of Liyue? Azar. I now command you, as a great sage, not to make transactions with the people of Liyue. Walnut. Why is this so? Dolly. Ah. This. Your Highness, Dolly, I didn't break the law, did I? Yan Fei said, after my research, there should be no relevant laws prohibiting transactions with other countries in Xumi. Azar. Humph. We have it now, can't we? Lisa. Hehe, the official authority of the great sage is still so powerful. Bakhong Shensi. Puchi. I don't know, maybe I thought this was the deity of Xumi. Azar. Humph. We don't need people from other countries to worry about our Xumi affairs. Azar said, as the people of Xumi, we should focus our hearts and minds on the study of knowledge, rather than on the tricks of buying and selling. Ningguang said, oh, this great sage of Xumi, if you say that, I will have to argue with you. Bakhong Shensi. Fantastic and obscene, hehe. You really dare to say it. At this moment, the divine child under the cherry tree had a flash of electric light in his eyes. This is the first time someone has belittled her rare hobbies. It is obviously impossible to say that there is no fluctuation in the heart, just considering that Sumi is too far away. She still let go of the urge to trouble the other person, but it's still possible to create some troubles for them in the chat group. Azar. Humph. Heavenly power, condensed light, I know you. You also made a comeback through the business of merchants. Today, as a woman, it's hard not to doubt how you managed to get to where you are today. Ningguang. Oh. Are you suspecting my method of condensing? At this moment, the condensed light is clearly a bit agitated, although it is not the first time someone has questioned it. But how could one get used to such things? And last time before she becomes the heavenly power star. At this moment, she was somewhat skeptical about how the other party's emotional intelligence had risen to the position of great sage. Or is it true that the other party wasn't like this at first, they just went too far in academics and made their brains fool? Azar. With your academic knowledge, I don't think you have the qualifications to debate with me. Alhaisen. Alhaisen. As the secretary of Sumru, I would like to reiterate that Azar does not represent Sumru. Lisa. Hehe. There's a great show to watch now. Great, don't I have the qualifications to argue with him? At this moment, the condensed light has caused some fluctuations in my mood. After originally occupying a high position, people began to respect and fear her, and began to distance themselves from her. But looking down on her so much, this is the first time she has met her.